everybody, ADG here with another product review, kind of both put together. What we have here is an MRC DCC decoder, and I know I've said this in the past that I have a problem with these decoders. That said, I had mixed results earlier on with them before they became XL systems. I actually have a c420 I converted to an Alco diesel decoder, and it came out pretty well. The sound isn't quite on par for it. It's supposed to be for a 251. This actually sounds like more like a 539, but it's convincing enough that it made it fun enough to run. Anywho, I was not so much paying attention to these decoders since they've had so many problems that you saw with that infamous P42 that I put the decoder in with the new XL Systems variant of the decoder, which turned out to be 10 times worse than anything MRC ever made before it. I basically gave up on MRC. Now I'm starting to feel like the kid that kind of, well, basically is hearing about this great movie and decides never and just can't get around to see it, and is now the one kid who didn't see it. Anywho, the reason being is that MRC is essentially, seemingly slowly but surely rolling up their decoders. I should say XL Systems, it seems to, as I'm finding fewer and fewer places that sell these decoders, and they were fire selling them when I did that video, and now I see there are almost no places to find them anymore. I found this outfit on Amazon that was selling this particular decoder, and I went for it. This is the 18... rather infamous name on it. What do they call this one again? The 1812 decoder. There it is, 1812. This is designed to fit most Atlas engines. I believe this is for the c420. The reason being is I decided I would like another engine with sound on it to run on my big layout, which I've been working on lately. There'll be a video I'm going to do on that sometime in the future. Still trying to get to it. I've done a lot of work on that. I've done more wiring on it. I've added a new industry on the main line. It's coming out really great. I've also extended it again slightly to make everything work, and I'm pretty happy with the progress. Anyway, I digress back on this. So I happen to have this engine here, which I bought I don't know how long ago. It's either a year or two ago. It's just been sitting. It works. It just doesn't have a decoder in it. It's decoder ready, as we see right over here. And what I've decided to do is to go ahead and put a decoder in it. I believe this is new, but it does have some kind of label on it. I think that was just the price tag. It was bought by someone. I think the story was the person bought it. It never got used. It just sat there. And essentially the person then decided, okay, I'm not going to use this. Let me sell it off. Or passed away. I'm not sure which happened. Or this became one of those engines that got sold at a train show because of an estate sale or something else. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to attempt to put this decoder in this locomotive. This is a Lehigh and Hudson C420. I used to always confuse these as Jeep engines when I was a kid, but they're not. The main thing you can tell is with this unusually massive ventilation system in the back, because the C420s have a positive intake pressure engine compartment thing. What that does is basically keeps particulate out by forcing air into it and basically forcing any other air out of it. Basically, you always have a clean draft of air that's been filtered with these huge filters up here, or either on the sides, and as a result, you constantly have a clean draft of air coming through it, keeping it cooler, making it run more effectively and more reliably. Again, that was because the 251 engine was replacing the 244 at this time. This is sort of the second gen of these engines, sort of Alco's last stand, and they were desperately trying to enhance the sort of reliability of the engine. Really, that engine was a fine prime mover, the 250. The only problem was that they were hamstringing it by doing stupid things like putting, I think it was metallic piston caps made with inferior alloys on top of the engine, putting really bad wiring in these engines using non-copper wire, steel wiring, and just or cables, just really making a lot of idiotic decisions for the sake of saving a few bucks. Anyway, all that said, let's get to work on this model. I've just now, as you've seen, carefully grasped this and removed this shell from the actual frame because we're going to have to get into this locomotive to work on it. And here we are, bog standard probably a non-DCC analog board. 2 LED lights, which gives it directional lighting that's controlled by these tantalums, this tantalum capacitor, and a few other things up here. This board is obviously going to be saying bye-bye, as I'm going to be replacing it with the one I just showed you in the MRC package. The first step is to get this board out, though. So I need a screwdriver, which I have back here on my crowded makeshift workbench. Let's go ahead and grab this. Still cannot believe how cold it is today. We had, I should say, up here in the Northeast where I am, ski season was kind of crazy this year. You know, it was nice and cold. It was pretty warm initially, then it got really cold, then it got warm again, and it pretty much knocked the conditions out. And now, as I'm speaking, it got freezing today. I almost went today, had it not been for the gusty 50 to 40 mile per hour wind, which will do a number on skiing on that. Okay, went ahead and just did that. as it tends to affect the way the lifts operate, and it tends to make skiing a little bit challenging. Got these two washers here that just spill out of the back. I'll show you where they go. They go on this side of the frame. Not sure why they fell out, but I'm just going to keep them in the boxes I've learned to do with these projects. Okay, now I'm going to separate the frame itself. You shouldn't have to split the frame, but in the case of these MRC decoders, you really do, because we're going to have to insulate this section right here, because it's where the actual pickups for the motor are. We don't want one of those to make contact with the frame, because if it does, and it at the same time makes contact with the decoder, it will blow that decoder to smithereens. Oh, good grief. I just slid it apart. That's always the part I hate about this, but I did get it apart. One of my trucks decided to go AWOL, which I'm going to have to locate. There it is. Okay, in the box you go, guys. Don't need you right now. I'll show you where that contact is. Now, you see here's the standard board, and of course, it came apart the wrong way, so I'm going to have to do a little work on this. But, yeah, that's the standard board right here. Oh, and I'm noticing I'm missing one of the screws. Oh, there it is. That's it. These go in here. I'm not messing around with that. 2 screws go on the side. The insulating washers. Don't want to lose these. And I actually have to take this thing and reassemble it again, partly because of how this worked, but I can at least show you. Right here, you see these are the 2 motor contacts. It's a very simple system. They both make contact with the actual analog board here. This is the board itself. The power comes through these 2 pickup points on either end of the board and goes into and it gets that power from the frame itself, which in turn gets it from the trucks, which have, and I'll show you right here, these little pickups on them, which in turn contact. Let me get a better shot. I don't want to be too brief with this. These little pickups here, which in turn contact these contact lines, which in turn then transfer the power via the frame, via these little pickup points to the actual decoder / analog board. So out comes the analog board. Not going to use this anymore, because if I don't get it to work on sound, I'm going to just drop a DCC board in there and get it running that way. Going to now actually pop the motor out, because I want to transfer this to the other side. I don't want this side, and the main reason being is that this side lacks these special holders or sort of locating devices that hold the gears in place. This is the other side of the frame which has that. I always want this because it will make sure that these are kept in place when you reassemble it. It's always much easier to do it this way. In fact, I've yet to have it work doing it the other way. I haven't been able to do that in a long time. Where, in other words, if you don't have these, because you need to have these in the perfect position, or the shell will not close on top of it. You will not be able to get, I should say, the frame to close on top of it, and you'll have major issues. So let's go in. Without further ado, let's get this apart. I'm going to shove this out. Ooh. Carefully. Squeezing this a little bit here to get these little points out. These are these little plastic locks that go inside the metal frame. This is, mind you, not the newest variation of this trim. There's one that comes with DCC from the factory, as many of you will rightfully point out. That is correct. But we're not using that one today. We're using an older type. So before I put this back in, I'm going to now make sure I sit it this way, because that's the orientation I need to keep it. I'm going to now insulate my frame with some Kapton tape, which I have right over here. This is not electrical tape. This is specially designed to seal, it's specially designed to work with high temperatures. That's why they recommend you use it in N scale. I've seen people use electric tape, but especially in some of the applications like the P42s that Kano makes, if you use it there, it's going to cause problems, because that tends to be much more bulkier, and that will in turn lead to the contacts in that locomotive not sitting correctly or bending. And once that happens, essentially you're going to ruin the connections and they won't work. Right across there. Now, what we're going to do with this tape here is we're going to go and actually wrap it straight around this section right here. These little sort of indentations in the metal, if you will. We're going to wrap this around completely. I don't think it matters too much. I haven't done this in ages, but I don't think it matters too much. Oh, we do need to make sure that these 2 holes can push through here. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hobby knife and cut this hole out right here. Can I claim? I don't claim any responsibility for injuries, so make sure you know what you're doing before you follow my instructions, if you're going to follow them. Going to now punch out this other side too, because this needs to lock in. Okay, so that's one side done. I think that'll work. If not, I'll go back and I'll mess with it a bit more. Now I'm going to do the same with the other side. I'm going to get some more Kapton tape. And you can get this from TCS and a few other suppliers. It's even sold generically on eBay and Amazon. It's not hard to come by. I would, again, strongly recommend using it, because the electric tape stuff really is not supposed to be used. I've seen Scotch tape used, which will kind of work, but to be honest, I don't recommend that at all. And again, I'm not responsible if you decide to follow that or anything else I'm showing here. Do not, but I can tell you with the utmost confidence that you should not be using electric tape with this job. I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm going to cut this down this way. Oh, took the whole thing off. All right, let me get another piece. Don't worry about wasting Kapton tape. This stuff I find only has so long of a shelf life anyway. It's not abundantly expensive to get. And again, if it fails, all you're going to do is ruin your decoder, and that's not going to help anything. So you need to use more, then you use more. Don't worry about it not being sticky. Don't worry about, oh my God, I got to get every last ounce out of it. No, you're not doing yourself any favors. It's too bad that MRC doesn't actually include Kapton tape with this order, as most manufacturers do with their decoders. They always include it, it seems, with very few exceptions, MRC being one of them. Okay, I think that'll work now. So now we have that all taken care of. Now it's time to slip the decoder in place after I do a little sort of positioning of the equipment. Put this Mr. Knife away here so I don't accidentally damage it or something else. Now we're going to go right here to the side of the frame that has this. This sits right here. Yo. I'm going to see, does this thing need lubrication? This has got some of that nasty grease on it, but not much of it. Let me go put some grease on this because I have it right in front. I also have my label stuff, so let me go on actually grease the oil-free bearings here. Let me actually take you in further so I can get you better shots of this here. Let's go down to number 3. That's much better. There we go. There we go. I got that done. First gear is all set to go back in. Again, I'm using the side with these special mounts, if you will, or holders, or whatever you would like to call them, for the gear itself, for the worm gears themselves. This will make it easier to reinstall them. I'm also then going to put, once I get this stuff in place, I'm going to put some other things in here. I'm going to put some grease on that, because the grease, I don't know what they did here. It's strange how they keep lubricating these endpoints just a slight bit, which appears they did. It's got this sticky, greasy stuff on it. Hopefully I don't regret not going through and doing a complete cleanup, but again, I'm doing this more for an academic thing to see if this decoder is actually going to do its job and whether I should buy more of them before they sell out, or should I just forget about it. Let's go now and put this other one on here. Oh, I just lost the insulator. Let's put that back on top. You want to make sure you have these thrust washers, as they call them, between the actual bearing locator, this plastic thingy, and the, bearing itself, and the actual worm gear, because if they're not there, this gear will get chewed up by the metal. And you don't want that to happen. That's not good. Definitely no bueno, kein gut. Okay, so let's now rotate the motor, get the shaft in place, and slip it right down back where it came. Just like that. There we go. Oop, pardon me for it down. Now, since I'm in here anyway, I'm thinking I should probably go in and just lubricate this. I can't get to the commutator because of the way Atlas designs its motor, but I can lubricate the bearings for the motor itself. Actually seems suspiciously loose for something that is supposed to be not used. Again, it's kind of late for me to get my money back, so I didn't bother testing this to see exactly how well it would work. I know it has functionality, but that's about all I tested it for. I did not test it when I got it, but it's too late to get my money back anyway, so I'm kind of going for broke. I'm kind of getting into a new thing where I'm being told don't use label at all, even though I've been told that this is good for commutators, even though it says it on their website. I find it doesn't work very well on those things. It doesn't really enhance conductivity. It makes it worse. I'm kind of getting into it where I'm going to start using conductive lubricant around the motor to stop problems with conductivity, although I find if you do use it, it'll just burn off. That's my experience. Your experience may vary. Okay, now let's go ahead and now start getting this ready to be put back together again. I'm going to put my 2 insulating washers on both sides. Here's one of them. Here's the other one. Doesn't matter which way they go in. This, again, is because this is a split frame, we don't want to have the positive and negative making contact. These 2 spacer thingies, insulators, whatever you'd like to call them, keep the frames from making contact and transferring power back and forth between them. Okay, now the moment you've been waiting for, the pièce de résistance, the MRC 1812 decoder. Now, it made these so popular back in the day. This is why I installed them on some of my my HO scale engines. You'll note a lot of the old RS3 videos I made had sound in them. That's because this is a complete package, as we saw, but I'll show you a better shot of it now. As you see, it has a speaker built into the back right here, which is wired directly into the board itself, and essentially it's all set to go. You plug this thing in, you have DCC and sound installed in one go. It's just a matter of getting this to work. My problem is that I can never make these things make contact. A lot of times I'll get it in, the sound will work, but it won't actually function beyond that point. Oh, another nice little touch. They've actually added solder to the 4 points here, so it's almost like this is a later production one. I don't recall the earlier ones having it. I could be wrong. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carefully place this in place of the stock board. I'm going to line up these 2 fingers and make sure they make contact with that. If they don't, well, I'm going to be very unhappy because the engine won't move again. I'm starting to think I should maybe try putting some solder on the other decoders I have from MRC. I have 1 or 2 of them sitting around where they would go in, but they wouldn't make any, but they would make sound and stuff, but they wouldn't actually move. Okay, I got that side in. Now I should just be able to take the other side and just snap it into place. Again, making sure that this area here, the Kapton tape written area, is right by the motor pickups because that's where it belongs. And then just gently line it all up and press it together. It is, just gently press it together. And there we go. And just like that, I've put the engine back together. Now we're going to put the trucks back in place. Please note that they will come in much better here. It's a better idea to do it now. Some say you should do it as you assemble it, but I find that's almost impossible. Here the shell is very loose, so it'll easily slip into place. All I'm going to do is just gently press this into place and wipe my hands off so I don't put grease on these things. Oh, actually, I forgot to do one little thing here. Let me pull this back out. See, I was testing you there. Want to put a little grease on this, I think. I'm going to use some Hob E-Lube. I've had this stuff sitting around for a while, so I figure use it up. Just going to put a little dab on the worm gears. I'm going to go upside down because that's just where I happen to be. Just a little bit. Oh, that was too much. Again, you don't want to overstress the motor, so you don't want to use that much. I'm going to probably try to see if I can get some of this out of here. Let me get a brush here and actually take some of that out. I really overdid it. Ugh. Darn thing exploded. But you know that thing when you try to squeeze like a package of anything and it just goes all over the place? That's what kind of just happened to me there. Let's go in there and just get rid of some of this. There we go. I'm just going to move this around and get it inside there really good. There we go. Took some of that out on both sides. Now I'm going to take these 2 truck assemblies and put them back in. They just literally just snap right into place. Don't do this when they're loose. Mind you, the reason why I can get away with this is because there's no screws in it. I would strongly recommend waiting until after you put the screw. I would strongly recommend doing it now before you put the screws back in, because if you do it when the screws are in, it's going to be so tight that you're going to cause problems. Okay, so now I've done that. These contacts seem pretty good here, so I think I can get away without cleaning them. Famous last words. We'll see what happens when it runs. Next, I need to now reinstall my... Because I won't want to test... You might wonder why I haven't tested this yet. Reason being is I don't want to test it until I have everything tightened up, because this could literally explode once the drive shaft starts to spin. So next I'm going to put my insulators back in place. Here's one of them. Here's the other. I don't know if that one fell into the range of the camera. And I also want to put my fuel tank, if I can find it. Oh, here's the fuel tank. Right here. There we go. Oh, it's backwards. There it is. It's snapped into place. I believe the beveled edge goes on the outside. Or goes on the inside, rather. Let's put this in here. I guess I'll find out. I think it makes a whole lot of difference. No, I think it's on the other way around, I think. Or, yep, I think this is how it should go. Okay, it's like that. One of those. Then I'll grab this. Reason for this washer is simple, as it's going to allow the screw to go in there and actually tighten up. Okay, so I put one screw in. I'm going to just tighten this down a bit. Not going to make it 100% tight, just enough to hold it together. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. Let me grab my other screw. Place this right in here. Again, this is typical for most Atlas locomotives up until built up until more recent times. Atlas is now getting rid of the split frame chassis, so you can tell this is an older model, and it's also, your choices are now going to be between DCC and sound or just DCC ready, and not all of them have sound decoders. That's another thing that's coming up. Anywho, that's back together now. Now, the moment of truth. Let's see if this actually works. Let's take you to Zoom 1. Let's pull my programming track, or rather main track here out. Get rid of the Kapton tape. I don't need that anymore. Get rid of a few other things here so I can get you better in the shot. I've extended my program track slash main track rather, so I can get more life out of it, get more distance out of it, and properly test these units. I'm going to place this on the track right now and put it on the re-railer so I have it nice on the track. And we're going to fire her up and see if she does something. Hopefully that does not include smoke. So, engine is on the track. I'm going to go ahead and plug her in right now and see if this sucker will fire up or whether it catches fire. Cross your fingers, folks. Plugging in my adapter. Ah! That's a good sign. Now, as you see, it immediately goes to sound mode. That's not the right sound. That's for an EMD SD40, I think. It's the 645, if I remember correctly, prime mover. Let's go to address number 3 on my Express, my Prodigy Express here, which is my workbench controller. So we'll go 3, enter. This thing always defaults to 1. This has been acting up for a while now. Just the functions. Let's see here. Ah, there it goes. A little hesitation there, but it's working. Bell, horn. You can adjust these later on. I'll explain if and when this works. Let's throttle her up and see if she'll move. And here's what I've been having a problem with these things. It's not moving at all. Yeah, this is what I've been experiencing with these decoders as of late. See, the lights work and everything, which is a shame, but again, you throttle it up and it doesn't do anything. And everyone saw I was very careful to make sure those 2 contact points made contact. But I think I have an idea of what might be wrong with this. Let's go ahead and go to program here. Actually, I'm going to power this thing. Actually, let me try one thing before I do that. Let's go back to the main menu. I could try shutting it down and starting it up again. Nothing. Nothing. So I don't know why it's not doing anything. I don't know if it's something I did wrong here or I've been doing wrong. One more try on this. 3 times on F8 to shut it off. Gonna wait for it to go completely through the shutdown phase. I'm gonna try starting it up again. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna try resetting the CVs on this thing. Go to factory default. Sometimes that brings it to life, I'm told, and I've seen that happen a couple times. If not, I've just wasted my money again. Let's try her again. On notch 28, nothing. Okay, so this is clearly not going to be that easy to work with. I kind of figured as much. This is always a reason why I stopped doing things, and that's one of them. This is what I've typically have been getting lately with these decoders. You install it. It does everything it's supposed to, except actually make the locomotive move, which is kind of useless. So what I've done now is I plugged in my programming track, because that's how MRC prefers you to handle this. This is an MRC system, so that'll hopefully give me an advantage to dealing with this mess, as it has in the past helped me get these things going. I'm going to go now and read through the instructions here and find out what the factory default reset thing is to get all the CVs to default, and I'm going to see if that makes it work. Okay, now let's see. CV8 is not the CV8 is the manufacturer ID. Let's see what factory reset is on it. just reading through here quickly. Well, this project has taken another negative turn, and it's not exactly improving my enthusiasm for MRC products. As you can see here, the engine is now making a very bizarre sound that's a cross between all the prime movers that are pre-programmed, and it is not responding, period. I've tried resetting this to default several times, which is in this case with MRC CV125 to 1. I have tried everything else. In fact, that's what set this off when I had problems still trying to get the motor to respond. I reset it to try to, that's the common procedure. You reset everything to defaults. I followed the instructions, and now it makes this weird default sound that's a cross between all the prime movers installed. It won't accept any instructions from my DCC system. I can't program it, period. It won't respond to any commands whatsoever, and essentially it's worse than what I started with. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to call this a fail. I'm going to have to see if I can get my money back now. I'm not exactly thrilled with this, but there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to call this a decoder fail. Maybe I'll dig around and see if I can find one of these other decoders I've had laying around and see if I can get one that might actually work from in stock and maybe make this work. But I'm pretty sure this is done for. Because, again, I reset it, and it didn't go like the reset procedure, and now it's making a weird sound effect. It won't respond. I've tried resetting it numerous times. This is all it's doing. The system can't read the instructions. All it does when you put it on the track is make this stupid noise. Again, as you see, the functions won't work on it. I'll try 3 again on this one. Loco 3, enter. Hit the headlight, nothing happens. Hit the throttle, nothing happens. The horns don't respond, nothing works. It just makes this continuous sound over and over again, and essentially it's crap. So I'm going to have to now probably try to return this thing and get my money back, or maybe try it one more time. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video temporarily. I may come back and make a follow-up to it.